on Archons, we're diving into some more Dark Tidings, but this time doing a little bit different because what you're seeing in front of me are the first two decks I got to experience of Dark Tidings. Even though I opened up one deck here on the page as like the first deck opened, these two were the first decks I actually played. This one particularly was my very first experience with Dark Tidings, the Imprisoned Metal Mind, and this is also, I think, the strongest deck I have in my collection of Dark Tidings, hence why it is sleeved up. But this one, I think, might be number 2. I'm not entirely sure just yet. Still need to test it against the other decks. Did a little Goldfish tournament the other night to see my other decks, and this one was constantly coming on top. This one is really neat as well. My friend Sierra Alpha played this, and we just basically opened these up blind. They both came from a 2-player starter, and we just saw the houses and then shuffled up the decks and played one another. Then we swapped decks, and actually he won both games, proving that the only reason I was beating him before was because my knowledge of the cards was better than him, because when we both have the same knowledge, he's a really good player. So we did this little kind of adaptive game with this and the first deck I opened, but I just want to talk about these decks because you have not seen these on stream on my YouTube, because I opened them up just to enjoy the inaugural day of Dark Tidings existing. So I want to show you this deck, especially this one, because this one is my favorite. The Imprisoned Metal Mind was such a sick name. Honor or Glory. So I'm going to go over the cards quickly and then why I like it. So choose one, deal 3 damage to each flank creature or to each creature not on a flank. Red Hand Registry. This card is frickin' bonkers. After Ember is stolen from you, your opponent skips the Forge a key step during their next turn. Really sick. And the flavor text is, it's hard to pick pockets when you're all thumbs. Then we have Shoulder Armor ×2 on here, a classic Coda card. Badge Magus, 4 power creature, deploy, fight and ready with each of Badge Magus's neighbors one at a time. Cleansing Wave, classic card. General Salvador, we know that one. Grand Melee, destroy each creature that does not share a house with at least one of its neighbors. Hammergram, deal 3 damage to a creature and stun it. This card's pretty wild. Seneschal Sargassa. Seneschal? I don't know how to say the name. Sargassa. 6 power, 2 armor. It says after a player raises the tide, a creature they control captures 2 from their opponent. This card is actually wild because sometimes you will not want to get the tide back, because you know by you taking the tide back, your opponent can take the tide and then capture 2 Ember from you. So this card creates a lot of interesting decision making within the tide mechanic, and I absolutely love it because it really lets you explore the strategic value of having the tide on your side or on your opponent's side, so it can't be changed. Then we have Sir Bever, just a 1 power 5 armor taunt creature, which is really nice. Taxing Journey, a friendly creature captures 1 Ember. Each of its neighbors that share a house with it also captures 1. Little Ember control there. Shadow Council, classic leader in Shadows. Freebooter Fae, 4 power, play, raise the tide. Reap, if the tide is high, steal 1. Ransack, classic, steal 1, discard the top card. If it's Shadows, keep stealing. Francis the Economist, it's a double fight. This card, you know what? You see this card and you go, who cares, right? Well, the double shoulder armor on this makes this a 7 power, 4 armor creature with skirmish. So you can do a lot of damage. And then because there's so much stealing actually in this deck, sometimes I want, like I've had instances where literally my opponent does have Ember for me to take. So I want a way so I can give my opponent some Ember and then use my other cards and steal it back, because it gets the highest Ember gain. Because if I'm already stealing and there's nothing there, I'm not generating the same amount of Ember. So I really like that. Hard Simpson, this card is bonkers because it pairs so nicely with the Red Hand Registry, because of the fact that he, depending on where the tide is, you're either stealing Ember or he's stealing Ember. So you can basically make it that when you have Red Hand Registry out, you can have him take damage when the tide's on your opponent's side, and you get an Ember stolen from you, which then means your opponent skips their Forge key step. So Hard Simpson combos real nicely with the Red Hand Registry, so I love it. Hobnobbler, 3 power action. Oh yeah, this is elusive too. I didn't read this card. It says after it's dealt damage, steal 1. If the tide is low, your opponent steals 1 and it must survive. Hobnobbler. If your opponent has 6 or more Ember, steal 2. Really good. Kerwallop. So Kerwallop also combos with Hard Simpson. Hard Simpson is definitely becoming one of those cards that I really like to play around with the way it can combo off in different ways, and this is one of the cards that does that. So it's a capture pip, and it's deal 1 to each creature, gain 1 for each creature destroyed this way. And then obviously Cleansing Wave in this deck makes this really sick. Mug, meat and potatoes. Scooped, deal 2 damage to creature. If it's not destroyed, it captures 1 from its own side. If it's a 3 power creature, you play this. You play Kerwallop, and that's basically getting 1/2 Ember off of that. So it's really nice, and some Ember control. So we got 2 scoops. I really like that. And then Sea Urchin is a 1 power poison creature that has a play. Capture 1 if the tide is high. Steal 1 instead. General Order 24. That's right. That's back, and it is so good in this set. This card has wrecked games. I absolutely love it in this deck. I don't really have another deck that utilizes this well, but this deck 100% does. Sabotage Mission, action card. Play 1, keys cost +1 for each different power value among friendly creatures to your opponent's next turn. This one I've been confused with how it works. So if there's 2 creatures with the same power, does that mean that doesn't count toward it? It's only, or is it like each unique? That one I've kind of been going off of. So if you have 2 4 power creatures, that doesn't increase cost. But if you only have 1 5 power creature on the board, that makes it +1. And then if you have a 6 and no other 6, that makes it cost +1. I think that's how it works. So it's a really neat, finicky Ember cost increase, or key cost. Selective Preservation. So this card is wrecked TCO right now, but they've got it fixed. So anything that you have a double power value of, you choose which one you keep and you destroy the others. If there's only ever a single power number, this doesn't trigger. But it's really nice because it does combo off with Sabotage Mission in that way, because you're going to destroy all the multiples. Then we have Ambervac, which is an upgrade. You play it, raise the tide, and then if the creature gains at the start of your turn, if the tide is high, capture 2. Biome Discovery. If the tide is high, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck and discard one of them. Otherwise, raise the tide. Again, these are great ways to combo off with the Sanctum Knight, that when the tide changes, you capture 2. So it's really interesting in that way. And then we have CR Officer Hawkins. Deploy, gain 1 for each of CR Officer Hawkins' non-Star Alliance neighbors. Diplomat Agong. It's a 2 power creature, and it's a Crix. It says, play Fight Reap. For the remainder of the turn, a friendly creature belongs to the house of your choice in addition to its other houses. So this is basically creating a house cheat with one of your other creatures. I really like this card. I think it's really neat. Karkar, classic card. Lieutenant Valmart with a capture pip. Play Fight Reap. If the tide is high, your keys cost +3 during your opponent's next turn. Then we have Technobabble. Stun a creature and each of its neighbors that share a house with it. So, yeah, it's a really cool card. And then we have, lastly, Unity or Discord. Choose one, use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature, return up to 2 friendly creatures, and each upgrade attached to them to their owner's hands. This is basically a way to, it's kind of like a transporter platform in a card in a way, but it's, I don't have as much upgrades in here to make it really work. It's more the shoulder armors. If I feel like I'm going to definitely be calling Sanctum next turn, that's a good play. Yeah, so that basically shows you everything that's in here. A lot of great combos in this deck. It combos off so nicely, so much steel in it. It's kind of bonkers. And again, Scooped and Mug is another combo. It just combos in the synergy, and it is really nice. It's by far my favorite Dark Tidings deck to play so far. But now let's move on to the other one, which is Eeyore. Let's call this Eeyore, okay? Because everyone likes Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore, Poison Pit's Barrister. So in this one, we got Saurian, Unfathomable, and Untamed. And this was the one my friend Sierra Alpha played, and it's a lot of fun. You may unstun a creature when you play a Reap with this. Really good, actually. Humble, fantastic. Fiscus Felix. If the tide is high, you may exalt any creature, basically. Really cool. And then we got Carpe Venum. And it's got a capture pip, exalt 2 enemy creatures. And then you got Censor Philo, and this is where all these creatures having stuff on them is pretty awesome. Censor Philo cannot be dealt damage by creatures with Ember on them. And you got tons of ways of putting it on there. Consul Primus is back. Cornichon Octavia is back. Really nice. Magistra Vita. It says you may exalt a friendly non-swearing creature. If you do, reap with it. Super cool. Absolutely love it. Then we have Medicus Lacus. This is sick. While the tide is high, you may spend Ember on friendly creatures as if it was in your pool. Basically, what this means is if you have the tide on you and your opponent goes to their turn and realizes you're in check, they have to basically switch the tide and take those chains no matter what. So it just creates a gun to your opponent's head of tide raising, which is really cool. I really like this card, and it's at common. Then we have Ostracize. Lose 1 Ember if you do purge a creature. Really powerful. Reach advantage. If the tide is high, a friendly creature captures 3. Otherwise, raise the tide. Okay? So you see this friendly creature captures 3, and then you can just humble it off right afterwards. So really nice combo there. And then lastly, this Saurian House has Undagnathus. While the tide is low, Undagnathus deals no damage when fighting. Aside from that, you got a 12 power creature. Fun side note, Sea Urchin just basically wrecks this card. Next up, we have General Sherman. This card is pretty wild. Pretty wild. General Sherman deals no damage when fighting. When you play it, purge each other creature. If General Sherman leaves play, return to play each creature purged this way, exhausted and under its owner's control. The thing I'm wondering, and I don't know this, so hopefully someone can answer for me here, is does the return to play means play abilities trigger again? That's what I don't know, because that makes me wonder sometimes when you should or shouldn't be playing General Sherman. So that's one thing. The Chosen One. This card is bonkers. I love it. Instead of readying creatures they control during their ready card step, your opponent deals 1 damage to the Chosen One for each exhausted creature they control. So basically, until this dies, your opponent's creatures don't ready. They enter play exhausted, they don't ready at the end of the turn, and it's a real disruption. And I've noticed this exhaustion theme within Unfathomable, and I find it really interesting, and it is really annoying. Like, you saw the way Dis did things. This is showing a different side of that disruption, and it's quite interesting. Badge and Ship, return a creature to its owner's hand. If the tide is high, return 4 instead. Really powerful. Echo Pearl. Destroy Echo Pearl and its Omni. Exhaust, stun, and enrage a creature. Sleep with the Fishes. Destroy each exhausted creature. So the Chosen One, Sleep with the Fishes combo is just bonkers. Then we have Call of the Void. Exhaust a creature. If it was already exhausted, destroy it instead. Its controller loses 1. 2 of those. So good. Especially, like I said, we have all these ways to combo with that. So it's so powerful, and I really like this Unfathomable house here. Frigorific Rod. Action. Exhaust a creature or artifact. Really great to have with all these things that want the creatures to be exhausted. Hookmaster. 4 power, 1 armor. Fight. If the tide is high, your opponent loses 2. Seabringer Krakoa, it's taunt, destroyed, raise the tide. Sink or swim, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Exhaust a creature and each of its neighbors. Again, depending on what you need for some of the other actions you have, this brings something to the table, which is some great decisions to be made. Wicolia, I don't know. Reap, keys cost +2 during your opponent's turn. Really great. And then we move on to Untamed. Emberfin Shark. So sick. I love seeing sharks, okay? So Emberfin Shark is great. Give it 3+1 power counters. At the end of the turn, remove a power counter from Emberfin Shark. If you do, each player gains 1. So you actually have to be careful with this card, because I've had moments where this actually kind of burned me, and I ended up having my opponent gain Ember. So I had to make decisions where I had to kill this creature so I wouldn't put my opponent in check. So really interesting. Very, very interesting decisions that have to be made with it. But it has some really nice combos within this deck, and I'll get to that in a second. Punctuated Equilibrium. You're never sad to see that. Embermancy. Here's where I was talking about. Remove up to 3+1 power counters from a creature. Gain 1 for each counter removed this way. So Emberfin Shark's a really good combo for that. Then we have Genetic Drift as well. Give a creature +1 power counter. Then give each creature with a power counter another power counter. So again, that combos with this really nicely. Double Chelonia. This is the new Hunting Witch with a condition, and I love it. After you play another creature, if the tide is high, gain 1, and it's elusive, so it's really powerful. Especially when you got a double Deepwater Gruin, you get 2 Ember, and if the tide is low, your opponent gains 1. Then we got Mookling in here. Your opponent's keys cost +X, where X is Mookling's power. So with all that other power generation of power counters, you can make Mookling really high. Milobi, so far one of the most useless cards. I absolutely love the art of the manta ray thing, but this card has just been fairly useless for me. I'm almost never using it. So if the tide's high, it gains skirmish. And it says before fight, enrage the creature Milobi fights in each of the creature's neighbors. Then we got a persistence hunting to exhaust an enemy creature of the chosen house. Sorry, choose a house and then exhaust each enemy creature of the chosen house. Again, so much unfathomable bonuses with that. Then we have Way of the Pixie, which is this creature gains reap, gain a bonus ember. So it's basically you reap, you get 2 ember. So really powerful here. This deck actually has a lot of synergy. I feel like I have not been playing this deck to its full potential, so I'm excited to keep doing reps with it because I think it is just fantastic. So these are my first 2 decks that I got to experience Dark Tidings with. This one is technically considered my first deck to me, and it is so far the best one, but this one I think has some real strong potential, and I haven't seen it. It can burst like nobody's business. So I hope you enjoyed this and some insight into my experience playing with Dark Tidings, because before I've just been like opening decks and giving you cards. Now I'm letting you know what my experience has been playing these cards. So I hope you like this video, and I look forward to sharing these on stream with you. And be sure to check out my Patreon link, because I think some Dark Tidings decks are going to be given away in the near future as part of my Patreon supporters deck giveaway, because I have 2 displays right now, and I'm going to be getting more, for sure 1 more. So let me know your thoughts, and tell me about some of those questions I had and what you think of these decks. If this was a Would You Rather, which one would you have too? Let's do that as well. Pretend this is Would You Rather. You don't get to see the stats, you just get to see the cards and what I talked about combos. Tell me which one you want. So as always, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.